She opens up about how she knew he was the one. I love this story. They met at an event in LA. That was in early 2005.
Hollywood just got a lot more interesting. 1 minute ago, Russell Crowe, the Oscar-winning actor known for his honesty and intensity, dropped a bombshell revelation that no one saw coming. For years, fans have speculated about the complex relationship between Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban, one of Hollywood's most admired couples. But now Crowe, a longtime friend and collaborator of both, has finally decided to speak out. And what he revealed is sending shockwaves through the entertainment world. Russell Crowe has known Nicole since their early days in the Australian film industry. Their friendship has always been close, built on mutual respect and shared experiences under the brutal glare of fame. And when Keith Urban entered the picture, Crowe became one of the few people who truly understood the dynamics of their relationship. The highs, the lows, and everything in between. But what made him finally speak now? According to insiders, Crowe's recent interview wasn't planned. It happened unexpectedly. An emotional moment that led him to tell the truth about what really went on behind the smiles. Red carpets and awards show appearances. The truth, as Crowe revealed it, isn't what anyone expected. It's not a scandal. It's something much deeper, more emotional, and far more human. His words painted a picture of love, sacrifice, and quiet struggles that even the most devoted fans never saw. And as his statement spreads across the internet, people are asking one question. What really happened between Nicole Kidman, Keith Urban, and their famous friend Russell Crowe? Long before Hollywood fame and international recognition, Russell Crowe and Nicole Kidman were just two ambitious young Australians trying to find their place in the entertainment world. It was the late 1980s, a time when Australia's film scene was booming with raw talent, and both Crowe and Kidman were carving out their paths toward stardom. Their connection was immediate. Russell admired Nicole's quiet determination and grace, while Nicole was drawn to Russell's unapologetic honesty and fiery passion for acting. They shared the same roots, the same dream, and the same understanding of what it meant to be an outsider trying to make it big. Over time, their friendship grew stronger, built not on fame, but on mutual respect and genuine affection. By the early 2000s, both had become global superstars. Nicole Kidman had already earned her Oscar for The Hours, while Russell had taken home his own for Gladiator. Despite their skyrocketing careers, they remained close friends. Russell often described Nicole as one of the few people who truly gets it, a rare compliment from someone known for being guarded and private. Then came Keith Urban. When Nicole and Keith began dating in 2005, Russell was one of the first people she introduced him to. The two men hit it off almost immediately. Both were proud Australians, both loved music, and both understood the toll that fame could take on a person's mental and emotional health. Behind the scenes, they developed a friendship that few outside their circle ever knew about. Russell often said he admired the way Keith looked after Nicole. He'd seen her go through heartbreaks before, including her painful divorce from Tom Cruise, and he knew how fragile she could be beneath her confident exterior. So when Keith came along, a man who treated her with love, patience, and understanding, Russell was genuinely happy for her. But fame has a strange way of testing even the strongest bonds. As the years went by, tabloids began spinning stories about tension between Russell, Nicole, and Keith. Rumors circulated that Crowe had been a protective friend, sometimes to the point of clashing with Keith. While the three rarely addressed these stories publicly, those close to them knew that their friendship was far more complex than any headline could capture. Russell, fiercely loyal by nature, often stepped in whenever he felt Nicole was being unfairly targeted by the media. He had seen firsthand how fame could distort the truth, and he wasn't afraid to defend her. Keith, meanwhile, respected Russell's loyalty, but sometimes struggled with how protective he could be. They were two strong personalities with one shared goal: to make sure Nicole was okay. Over the years, the trio developed an unspoken understanding. Russell became not just a friend, but something like family. He was there through Nicole's career highs and personal lows, through Keith's battles with addiction and his remarkable recovery. And as much as the tabloids tried to create tension, the truth was far more touching. It was about love, friendship, and the rare bond that can only form when people have truly been through life together. So when Russell finally spoke publicly about them, it wasn't to stir up gossip. It was to share a truth that had been quietly hidden for years. What he revealed wasn't scandalous or sensational. It was deeply human. It was the story of two people who survived fame, pain, and public pressure, and the friend who stood by them through it all, behind the glamour of red carpets and flashing cameras. Keith Urban's life was far from perfect. Long before he became one of country music's biggest stars, Keith had faced an uphill battle with addiction, a fight that nearly cost him everything. Including his marriage to Nicole Kidman, Russell Crowe, having seen the dark side of fame himself, understood what Keith was going through better than most. He had been around artists and performers whose careers had been destroyed by the same demons. And when Keith's struggles became public, Russell didn't judge him. Instead, he became one of the few friends who offered genuine support without the pressure of publicity. According to insiders close to the trio, Russell often visited the couple during some of Keith's most difficult moments. He'd spend hours talking with him about life, fame, and the pain of trying to live up to impossible expectations. He once told Keith, "You don't have to be the superstar every day. Sometimes you just have to survive." Those words reportedly stayed with Keith for years. Nicole, meanwhile, stood by her husband with unshakable loyalty. She knew the road ahead would be long and painful, but she refused to give up. While tabloids painted pictures of a marriage on the brink, the truth was very different. With the help of therapy, family, and a small circle of trusted friends, including Russell, Keith began to rebuild his life. Russell would later describe that period as one of the hardest things he'd ever watched two people go through. He said in a recent interview, "People see the smiles, the awards, the perfection. What they don't see is the nights when someone you love is barely holding on." Those words struck a chord with millions of fans who had followed Keith and Nicole's journey from the beginning. During Keith's rehabilitation and recovery, Russell reportedly acted as a quiet protector, shielding the couple from intrusive media and checking in regularly. Nicole once said that having friends like Russell during that time reminded her of the importance of loyalty, something that fame often strips away. She called him a brother, someone who never asked for anything in return, but was always there when it mattered most. Slowly, Keith began to recover. His music took on a new depth. Songs like Stupid Boy and Blue Ain't Your Color reflected pain, redemption, and the raw beauty of healing. And through it all, Nicole was his anchor. When he dedicated his Grammy win to her, saying, "You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself," the audience erupted in applause. But the few who knew the real story understood just how much that moment meant. Russell Crowe was one of them. In his recent revelation, he said, "Keith is the kind of man who fought his way back from the edge. People like to romanticize pain, but I've seen it, and it's not pretty." Nicole never stopped loving him, and that's what saved him. Those simple, heartfelt words turned what could have been a tabloid headline into something truly powerful. Russell wasn't spilling secrets. He was honoring two people who had survived what so many others couldn't. He described their love as one of the purest things I've ever seen in this business, a rare kind of devotion that fame, money, and pressure couldn't destroy. By the time Keith and Nicole celebrated their 17th wedding anniversary, the world saw them as one of Hollywood's strongest couples. But only a few, like Russell Crowe, knew the storms they had weathered together. His revelation wasn't about gossip. It was about truth, resilience, and the kind of love that's tested by real life and still survives. For years, Russell Crowe stayed silent about the personal lives of his closest friends, believing that privacy was sacred in an industry that devoured it. He had watched as Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban built their life together under relentless scrutiny. Every smile, every absence, every whispered rumor turned into headlines. But recently, in an emotional and unfiltered interview, Russell finally decided to speak from the heart. It happened during a quiet sit-down conversation with an Australian journalist who had known him since his early days in film. The interview was supposed to be about his new movie, but when Nicole and Keith's names came up, Russell paused. He looked down for a long moment, then said softly, "I think it's time people knew the truth about them. Not the gossip, but the reality." What followed was one of the most honest and heartfelt statements ever made by the Oscar-winning actor. Russell described Nicole as one of the strongest and kindest souls he'd ever met, a woman who, despite all her success, carried deep scars from her past. He spoke about how she'd endured heartbreak, pressure, and loss, yet somehow remained grounded and full of grace. "People don't realize how much she's had to survive," he said. "And Keith, he's the reason she found peace again." Russell revealed that when Nicole and Keith first started dating, many in the industry doubted it would last. They came from two different worlds. She, the Hollywood actress with an intense career. He, the country musician whose fame was rising fast. But Russell saw something real between them from the very beginning. "It wasn't built on image or publicity," he said. "It was built on two people who needed each other to heal." As the conversation deepened, Russell grew visibly emotional. He spoke about how fame isolates people, how the higher you climb, the lonelier it becomes. "Everyone wants something from you," he explained. "And sometimes, the only ones who understand that are those who've lived it. That's why my friendship with Nicole means so much. We've seen the cost of it all." He went on to share how Keith's battle with addiction affected them all. "There were nights when I didn't think he'd make it," Russell admitted. "But he did, because Nicole refused to let go." Those words revealed just how deeply he'd been involved during their toughest moments. He wasn't speaking as a celebrity or an actor. He was speaking as a friend who had stood beside them in silence while the rest of the world speculated. What made Russell's confession so moving was its sincerity. There was no bitterness, no judgment, no sensationalism, only respect. He said he was proud of Keith for being open about his recovery and of Nicole for her endless patience and faith. "They've taught me something about love," he added, "that it's not about perfection. It's about endurance." When the interview aired, fans around the world were stunned. They expected a headline, maybe a dramatic revelation. But what they got was something far more powerful. A glimpse into the humanity behind three of Australia's biggest stars. Social media exploded with praise for Russell's honesty and compassion. Viewers said it reminded them that real friendship still exists in an industry known for betrayal and ego. Later, when asked why he chose to speak now after all these years, Russell gave a simple answer. "Because I've watched them be misunderstood for too long. I think people should know that they're not just a glamorous couple. They're real people who've fought battles most of us couldn't handle." Those words cemented the moment as one of the most heartfelt revelations in modern celebrity history, not because it exposed secrets, but because it finally told the truth. The moment Russell Crowe's heartfelt revelation aired, the entertainment world went silent and then erupted. Fans, journalists, and industry insiders alike were caught off guard by the depth of honesty in his words. In an age where celebrity stories often spiral into scandal, Russell's confession was something else entirely. A reminder that behind the headlines and photo ops are real human beings bound by loyalty, pain, and love. Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban reportedly watched the interview together at their Nashville home. Sources close to the couple say that both were deeply moved, not by the exposure, but by the sincerity behind Russell's words. For years, the two had endured endless rumors about their marriage, their pasts, and even their connection to other celebrities. To finally have someone as respected as Russell tell their story, truthfully and with compassion, felt like a breath of fresh air. A few days later, Nicole was seen at a charity event where a journalist cautiously asked about Russell's comments. Instead of dodging the question, she smiled and said, "Russell has always been one of my dearest friends. What he said came from a place of love, and that means the world to us." Her calm, genuine response silenced any attempt at turning the story into tabloid gossip. Keith Urban, too, addressed the topic during a concert in Texas. Midway through the show, after performing Somebody Like You, he paused and told the audience, When you find people in life who stand by you through everything, hold on to them. That's what real friendship looks like. Though he didn't mention Russell by name, the crowd instantly understood. In the weeks that followed, the three friends became symbols of authenticity in an industry often criticized for being shallow and fake. Fans online praised Russell for his integrity, calling his statement a masterclass in loyalty. Many also noted how his comments had changed public perception of Nicole and Keith, reminding people that their relationship wasn't just another Hollywood love story, but one built on resilience, forgiveness, and trust. Behind the scenes, Russell, Nicole, and Keith reportedly reconnected more closely than ever. Insiders said that the interview sparked long, emotional conversations between them, a chance to reflect on their journeys and how far they'd all come. Russell later told a friend that he had no regrets about speaking out, saying, "Sometimes, the truth heals more than silence ever could." Nicole and Keith's marriage, once a constant target for tabloids, began to be viewed differently. Instead of sensational stories, journalists started focusing on their strength as a couple and their commitment to privacy. Even fans who had doubted them began to see the humanity behind their carefully guarded lives. In one of her later interviews, Nicole was asked what she had learned from her years in Hollywood. Her answer, while simple, spoke volumes. That real love isn't about perfection. It's about choosing to stay when things fall apart, and having friends who remind you who you are when the world forgets. Russell, for his part, continued to stand by them quietly. Though he rarely discussed the matter again, those who knew him say that his friendship with the couple remains as strong as ever. The three share not only a deep bond, but also an unspoken understanding, a sense that they've all survived something bigger than fame. In the end, Russell Crowe's revelation wasn't just a story about Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban. It was a testament to honesty, loyalty, and the kind of friendship that refuses to fade under pressure. He reminded the world that behind the glitter of Hollywood, there are still people who tell the truth, even when it's hard. And for Nicole and Keith, his words became more than just a defense. They became a public declaration of love and faith that redefined how the world saw them. Because sometimes it takes a friend's voice to remind everyone that the greatest stories aren't written by the tabloids. They're lived by the people who never gave up on each other.